Hi guys, taking advantage of a cancellation I had in my schedule to give a quick short story time. So, when I was younger, there was a point in my life where my mom had overprotected me. Okay? She tried really hard to I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't do that. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? All these worst case scenarios. Right? There was a point in my life where that was very, very true. And I will never forget being 12 years old, looking at my mother and saying, listen, if you do not let me fall, how will I ever learn to get up? Like, Mama, you gotta let me skin my knee every once in a while and learn how to heal from it, because otherwise you're gonna raise a ninny, a sissy, someone incapable of getting up when the chips are down. And if there's anything, especially back then, I was aware, but not quite as aware as I am now, I've learned is if we let circumstances knock us down, then we've allowed for 3D to make us its servant. But that's not the point of our existence. No, it's not about what happens. It's how you deal with it that helps you develop who you are. And perhaps that most important lesson that I tried to give my mother at 12 years old was, let me go and let me develop as a person. And the reason I want to share this story with you is perhaps one of the most important questions people ask is, well, if God loves us so much, why does God let bad things happen? The hardest thing to do is to detach and let someone go on their journey. Okay? Our job is to expect the best, see the best, and allow room for them to become the best. Because if we go out of our way to try to keep them from skinning their knees, to try and keep them from developing a self-sufficient personality, then we're going against the nature of all things. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, have you ever considered how birds learn how to fly? Mamas don't go out there and practice flying, flapping their wings for them. They throw them out the nest when it is their time, and they learn how to fly on the fly in the moment through the circumstance. Their natural instincts kick in. That's the purpose of the design. Allow your natural instincts to kick in. So there's a certain level of detachment that we must have that allows someone to become everything they are. This is always true. And something that can be really difficult to understand. Because if we want to do everything for them, or if we want to enable them, or we want to glorify a sort of weakness, then we're not doing them any favors. We're being divided. That's not our job. If people come to you for help, offer it. Don't determine what's best for them. Let them skin their knees if that's what needs to happen. Our job is to love people unconditionally, expect the best for them, and as a result, they get to experience being the best, or you get to experience the best version of them. But allow that freedom, because love is freedom. It's never not freedom. It's absolute freedom. And that was true since the beginning. When you were told there were 2 trees in Eden, the judgment tree of good and evil, and paradise. Both options have always existed. But in that story, you are told God needs to love you enough to choose your way or paradise. And if you need to go all the way around your way to come back to paradise, then God has to know and let you do that. So in no way is God ever ownership, determining what you want, trying to change you, trying to say you're not this or that. It's always freedom. You are always free to choose. So if you learn nothing else from being in a relationship, allow for this freedom. It's never attachment. It's never attachment. You got to be willing to love someone so much that you want their happiness as much as you want your own. You got to be loving and not attempting to change anything, because the irony of this whole thing is you are what you seek. That's the irony. So in attempting to change something out there, you have lost yourself in the process. Because the only reason they are showing up this way is so you can recognize yourself. So you can choose better, so you can know better, right? But at all points in time, the mirror can't lie. The mirror has to show up as you are so you can see what you're doing or not doing. It's such a perfect reflection, it's not even funny. But when you have accepted this, and you do so in peace, you get to experience a peaceful relationship. And you see the difference in the way that people appear. That's your reward. Because in love is love reflected. So as soon as you're not divided, as soon as you realize you're the source of that love, and you're completely aware of that in your awareness, you experience it on 3D. But you do so with freedom. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. This is not easy. It drives people insane. The detachment, it drives people totally insane. They want to be with you and they don't understand why. It's an overpowering thing that's magnetic. And for those of you that have been exposed to that, you'll know what it feels like when you've desired someone more than you've desired yourself. That invisible force is the force of someone who loves with complete and total detachment. Who loves like God. And that's what you're looking for. To want the best for them, whether it includes you or not. And when you do that, you leave room for them to come back to you. And they always do. Because the force is inevitable. Trust me on this. It's why it's so important to know that who you are. Because your ego is not the enemy. Your ego is the veil and the personal assistant that helps you discover you are the constant, that helps you fulfill biblical prophecy, that helps you understand the mystery, that helps you realize you're God. So there's a saying in the Gospel of Thomas that you will eventually, in the light, become one. And once you realize you were one, you will come back and become two. And then Jesus said, what will you do with the awareness? Meaning, at some point, you are going to realize that you are what you seek, that you are the light of the world, and that the universe is showing up exactly as your story. And now that you know that, who is the most important person in the equation? You. Because you are the story that is animating the world outside exactly as you are. And without judgment and with that total freedom, and you don't need anything, you gain everything. because the two should not be divided. Meaning, I cannot desire to be loved and have love at the same time. Why? Because here's the design. Your heart stands in the middle of your physical and your spiritual plane. Your heart is literally standing in the middle of that. So your desire is registering what is true of heaven, meaning you are already loved. Because love is love reflected. It's a complete and total picture. So you're already being loved. All right? So that is the invisible side of your reflection. Now, the visible side of your reflection is going to be what your mind perceives. Your mind sits in absolute and total darkness and is totally dependent on what you say next. So if you don't appreciate what heaven is offering you, you will end up with its deficit, the shadow, the lack of love. Because if I'm wanting to be loved, I am sending a message to my brain that I am not loved, and therefore I cannot experience love. But if I understand the message and how my heart is serving me, I can send the signal to my brain that says, I don't need to be loved, I am loved. Now the brain releases that image instead. Heart and mind are one, and I receive my desired state. Now I use love as an example, but this is true of money, this is true of relationships, this is true of any kind of success you want, this is true of everything. This is why the two must become one, the male and the female. And they are not talking about bodies or genders. Your female is your spiritual side, your desired state, and your male is your conscious mind able to decide and pick what you want. But you got to remember, your brain is like a computer. Without its programmer in the background, it can do infinite things, but it won't move. And what you have to do is get used to breaking these two down, making your heart the boss, and gravitating towards that kingdom so that your body gets to experience heaven on earth. It's a very easy design. It's not even difficult. But you have to know and believe and feel it real in order to experience it. Your blind father will give you your inheritance and pretend and totally be fooled and tricked into thinking you're your brother, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. Meaning your brain will absolutely give you whatever you want. Can you convince it that you already have it? Because that is your job. And this is the reason you never need anything. Not money, not shelter, not food, not anything. Because it's so simple. You already have it, but if you don't tell your brain, you can't. Then the male and the female are split. And that division is called earth. But when the male and the female, your heart and mind, are one, that union is called heaven on earth. And if that's what you're looking for, you're going to have to practice heart-brain coherence. You're going to have to practice making peace with your desires. You're going to have to practice accepting them. You're going to have to remember before you ask, it was already given. You're going to have to embody the state of someone who has it all, because that is the only way the brain can give it to you. The world is behind your eyes, not in front. It's being created by your skull, but it only reproduces what the programmer says. So if you are divided, you are dealing with your shadow, which is fantastic. It's still you, but it is also serving as your veil. But when you are no longer the veil, you will realize you don't need anyone, and you will realize that everyone is in fact you, and it doesn't matter who you choose. It doesn't matter who you choose to love. It doesn't matter who you choose to experience it. All bodies are you, to the degree that you never taste death again, ever. Ever. Death is impossible. Why? Because all those people that you think died only return to your heart space, where your mind light will recycle it into a new body for you to experience it. And I know this for a certifiable fact. For example, my son is now my granddaughter, and also a partner. Also, random strangers. I can see every ounce of that experience in every single human being ever, which means now in death, this actual experience is even closer than ever before. It is not lost at all. The transition is what's not understood. But when you see through those bodies, because your experience is no longer the veil, you will understand how everything is you. The you that is your experience on display. Your mirrored consciousness is everything. Your understanding is everything. Your acceptance and forgiveness is everything. Because here's the truth, you are not broken. Yes, we say we have to heal. This is absolutely correct. The identity that we chose to experience needs to heal. But the real you has never been broken. You are here to correct that gap, and in doing so, you change everyone in the whole universe. Because you are that. Without this acceptance, you won't see it. With this acceptance, you see it right away. As a result, you never miss anyone. You never desire anything, but everything comes to you, everything that you need. And I know this because we've been praying this prayer forever, and if you haven't, you didn't grow up like I did, but maybe the only prayer I've ever learned was Our Father, and thank you for my daily bread. Now that I understand its significance, I understand that I will never be without, that my daily bread shows up every single day, and my job is to be present to what's in front of me, because what's in front of me shows what's behind my self-concept. And my self-concept is running on autopilot, animating all of the world so that I can recognize myself. And so, in that peace, I can stand in the midst of chaos and know better. Know that every single component is there to serve me. And as you develop this kind of peace, you experience this peace in everything. This is the peace that transcends all understanding. It is what everybody is seeking. Because once you establish this, it doesn't matter what's happening. You're going to be fine. As such, even the state of the world right now, I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of it. I know you guys think, what? You kidding me? No, even the state of the world, I'm so proud of it. Look how many people are standing up and saying, no, I'm not being controlled anymore. No, I'm standing up. Okay? And I need you to remember there's a lot you can learn from nature. And we'll begin with this. The caterpillar must turn into caterpillar soup to become the creature that can fly. The whole thing has to destroy itself. So do not judge this process. Trust it. Applaud the good stuff. Hold the line. And know that we are moving towards freedom and love and a new world, because that new world has been here for quite some time. But until we stop replaying the old recordings, we can't see what's in front of us. Make peace with this, and everyone will be at peace with you. Trust me on that. Sorry, guys. Getting LinkedIn notifications. All right. So think about what I'm saying. Remember to love with freedom. Remember the thing that I taught my mom? She had to let me skin my knee every once in a while so I learned how to get up. And that it is okay to love with detachment. Because if we love with need, we've already lost. You know why? Because we let the shadow tell us what to do. The shadow takes a life of its own, and the shadow decides our state of being. When we detract from the love that we are, since the face of God is love, there's only love. As soon as you decide to neglect yourself, the deficit will show up in the 3D. It has to, by law. As above, so below. So within, so without. It's got to be an exact image. Otherwise, we can't correct the puzzle within ourselves and not discover who we are. It really is an amazing design. It really is beautiful. And you guys are already healed. All of you are already healed. I know you think you're not. You are. You absolutely are. Okay? The identity that we are choosing to embody needs to remember that. So be God to yourself and to everything, because you are everything. All right, you guys. Now I'm going to get back to my chores. Since I got a little break, I'm going to maybe go to a little happy hour. Then I'm going to go have some fun. And I will see you guys later. Think about what I'm saying. It leads to your freedom, I promise. I love you guys.